Namaste, welcome to Mind Body Retreats Ibiza. Currently on top of the San Antonio Villa in Palapa. I'm going to show you asana, Pasciamottanasana. This is literal translation of westward facing fold. I guess because they were doing this pose towards the sunlight, so the back was facing towards the west. This is why maybe it was called that. Anyway, for our purposes, what we care about is that it's a deep forward fold. It opens the back of the hips and the lumbar spine, and it helps us to really stretch into the hamstrings. It's very good for digestion and for settling the nervous system as well. One thing that happens a lot in this pose is that we can tend to use the arms a little bit too much. And really, to get the best benefit out of it, I want to lift up out of the lumbar spine and keep the legs as straight as you can. So you'll feel more happening in the hamstrings than anywhere else in the body, really, ideally. If you start to feel it more in the low back, the upper back, that there's some kind of stretching, pulling going on. A lot of people go for the toes when the back is like this. There's not really a huge amount of benefit for this in terms of doing the pose the way we want to open up the back of the hips and release the lumbar spine. So that's really good for circulation as well as digestion and the nervous system benefits I was mentioning. So one good way to approach this is just to start in Dandasana. This is seated staff pose, and to work on lifting the chest as much as you can. And you might find that when you first sit in this pose, your back is kind of rounded like this. It's because the hips are quite tight, like they're compensating for hamstrings when we're sitting a lot or we're driving a lot. Everything sort of tightens up here, and then getting this release really is one of the great benefits to yoga, that we can balance our life, so we can get rid of all this tightness in the hamstrings where there's a lot of circulation getting stuck up, which we can release through practicing these poses. So we'll start by working on the hamstrings in Dandasana with this bended back, and then over time working on lifting the chest up, drawing the shoulders down and back, so your body becomes like an L shape as much as possible. And breathing slowly. Try to connect deep into a diaphragm breath, especially in forward folding poses. Feel that you're breathing really deep down, deep belly breath, and you can practice this by breathing all of the air out. Hold it for maybe half a second, not so that it's massively uncomfortable, but when you come to naturally inhale, you'll find that the instinct is to come for a deep belly breath. So using that belly breath to lift up and lengthen at the lower spine especially, try and find that space here, lifting your spine up out of the pelvis. And as you get that sensation, you'll find there's a little bit more room to fold forwards on the exhale. If you notice that you're rounding, next inhale, just lift up again. Find that length in the spine. And then just work to hinge over time. It took me years to get really far forwards in this pose, to work on opening the hamstrings. And still now I do a lot of cycling, so it means that my hamstrings get tight regularly, so this is a really good pose for me to practice. If you find that it's a little bit intense or a little bit boring, you don't want to be here for 9 breaths, 9 slow in and exhales. If that's not doing it for you, just try and come up a little bit more. Maybe don't try to go for this arbitrary goal of getting the head towards the feet. It happens so much. We feel like, oh, I'm kind of halfway there, so I need to get my head down there. I can see someone else in the class, they've got their head down there, so I should be able to do that as well. Yoga's for everybody. Every individual body is different. So why make your pose the same as someone else's? You don't have the same body. So just practicing where you are, concentrating on the stretch in the back of the legs. If you feel it pop up in the low back, next inhale, just lengthening up again. And really being with the breath. As you exhale naturally, there's a sense of release through the body, a relaxation, just exhaling any tension that was there before. If we go really into the depth and then try to pull back out of it, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Best to just start off in Dandasana and over time work your way forwards. So I think maybe the first time I practiced this pose, I was somewhere like here, getting frustrated, and after years, eventually the low back would open up and then I could reach my toes comfortably without closing the shoulders or getting the shoulders close to the neck, drawing the shoulders away from the ears and finding space at the chest, like your chest is being lifted upwards and forwards, so the belly goes down towards the thighs. Maybe the belly even moves forwards on that inhale, and relaxes down to the thighs on the exhale. And these are directions, not destinations. Opening the chest, lengthening the spine on the inhale, exhaling, relaxing at the lower back. And even if you don't move, you'll feel the difference. And again, if you still find that you can't get anything out of it, just practice Dandasana. A nice way to warm up into this posture. Even just a great thing to do at the end of your day, or if you just need a moment, to cool your head down, just practice the same pose, forward folding. So this is ragdoll. You can take either elbow, just let the head hang, yes, no it a few times so that you feel the head is as heavy as a bowling ball in a sock. Just heavy, hanging, like this soft breeze would just blow it side to side. And when you feel the head release, you'll get this great release of all the tension in the back of the neck. The hamstrings are stretching. I'm feeling it more in my hamstrings than my low back. If I was very tight, or like when I started doing yoga, maybe I was somewhere more like up here, trying, really pulling and working hard, it's not going to get much done in this pose. It's more about just being where you are and relaxing, letting go. Those exhales and the release of effort are the things that will bring the asana, will bring the depth of the experience, will bring the benefits of stretching out the hamstrings and creating good circulation, opening up the joints in time. And then maybe after 5 to 9 breaths here, sending the weight forwards into the toes, releasing the upper body. See what it feels like in Pasciamottanasana. Seated forward fold. Notice the difference. 5 or 9 breaths here, lifting and lengthening the spine, exhaling, relaxing down. And maybe these movements are so subtle you can't even see them from the outside, but with the breath you can feel it. So this is a great counter pose to do for any back bending. Have a look at some of our other videos for some back bending poses or any other poses in this series. We'll give you a little introduction and enjoy your practice. Thank you for watching.